Podcast that dives into how doctors are using lab testing and fresh, forward thinking ways to transform healthcare. I'm Melissa Kyneth, a board certified laboratory geneticist, and I'll be your host as we talk directly with practitioners across the country about what's actually working in modern healthcare. And on today's episode, I'm joined by Dr. Tracy Gapin, a leading men's health optimization and longevity expert. He's the founder of the Gapin Institute for Precision Medicine and a board certified urologist with over 25 years of experience. Dr. Gapin helps high performing entrepreneurs, athletes, and executives reach peak performance through cutting edge, data driven health strategies. He's also a best selling author, TEDx speaker, and trusted by top professionals to optimize their health and energy. Dr. Gapin, it's so great to have you here.
Oh, thanks so much. That sounds pretty good what you just said.
Well, you did that. So, so every doctor has, kind of one test that maybe stands out to them, the one that maybe shaped a decision or a career path or even a life. What's yours and what made it so impactful for you?
What a great way to start, because the answer for me is clearly genetics. And let me give you a little bit of backstory to make it make sense. So, as
Awesome.
you mentioned, board certified urologist, spent almost 25 years in traditional medicine, running a very busy surgical practice, doing robotic surgery, treating prostate cancer, kidney stones, you name it every day, high volume, never slept. Miserable life. I hit a wall where halfway through my career, I hated who I was, hated what I was doing. I was in very poor health, 30 pounds overweight, felt like crap. And I found this entire world of epigenetics that turned it all around for me. So I was unhealthy, trying to figure out myself, how do I turn my own health around? And here I was, the air quote men's health expert urologist, and I had no idea what to do, how to actually get healthy. Right? I could treat problems, but I can't actually get healthy. And so I found the world of epigenetics. I met who is now my mentor. His name is Dan Stickler. He was a former general surgeon. He launched Apeiron, and
Yeah.
he was really my mentor in the beginning. And through his program, I learned the science around epigenetics, and I actually learned snip by snip what they meant, the different alleles, and how that affected lifestyle recommendations around nutrition, targeted supplementation, around detoxification, hormone, sleep, and fitness. And I learned really the science of lifestyle in a very unique and nuanced manner from the beginning. And I really fell in love with precision medicine through that experience, and that's what got me where I am today. So I was so miserable, broken, burned out, frustrated with my practice, with healthcare, with life. And that really got me excited about practicing medicine again. And shoot, here I am now, 10, 12 years later, have a great business. And it really started with the science of epigenetics.
That's amazing. It sounds like you also included epigenetics as well as genetics in that front. Would you say that's fair?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I lump it all together, but, we look at genetic reports, blueprints to really understand, what is best for a client, what are they going to respond best to, how can we manipulate their lifestyle to optimize, and so we use genetics to guide our recommendations, and then epigenetics, obviously, the lifestyle of how we can really affect change. Yeah.
That's amazing. So, what got you to the point of, integrating those data? Because I think right now, we have so much data in the wellness space, epigenetics, genetics, microbiome, like all these different tests.
Yeah.
How do you integrate those for your patients?
Sure. So I come from the traditional medical world. I was a surgeon, very scientific mentality. And when you come into this space, the immediate, tendency is to go toward the hormones and the peptides and the longevity molecules and all the fun, sexy stuff. But I learned through this journey very early on that lifestyle is where it's all at. And if you don't have lifestyle component figured out and integrated into your methodology, your approach, that you're not going to get nearly the same results. And that went along with the fact that I would see men in my urology practice for over 2 decades who would come in, they're on testosterone from another doctor, and they still feel like crap. And back then, I had no other tools in my toolbox. I was like, let's give you more testosterone. I don't know. I didn't know. Your sleep, how your nutrition, how your movement and your stress and your environmental exposures all affect the bottom line. And so if you The analogy I've made, I swear I need to trademark this, is I made this cake analogy, all right? And the cake analogy that I've created is this. You're baking a cake, and you have all the ingredients in your cake, right? And you put all the ingredients together, you bake this beautiful cake, you put it in the oven, it comes out, you put it on the drying rack. Once it's done drying, what do? You put the frosting on it, right? The ingredients of your cake are nutrition and sleep and fitness and hormones and micronutrients and blood sugar control and stress and toxins. You get my point. If you miss any one of those ingredients, you miss baking soda, that cake doesn't turn out nearly the same, right? You need every one of those ingredients for different ways.
Totally.
The frosting is like the sexy peptides and the hyperbarics and the sun and the red light and the cryo and the PEMF and all those other biohacks that they're great. And I'm not saying they're not right for people, but it's the nuance and the lifestyle component has to come first. That's the foundation. Those are the ingredients of your cake. And the genetics help you make sure that they're the right lifestyle recommendations and you're taking the right approach for your body, your biology.
I love that. The frosting doesn't save the cake if you're missing an ingredient. That is
Right, right.
totally true. I'm definitely a baker, so I can absolutely appreciate that analogy, and I like it, and I think you should trademark it.
There you go. There you go.
um,
Now you can go to the grocery store and buy a can of frosting and eat the frosting out of the can, but it's just not quite the same, right?
and one size doesn't fit all. Like some cakes need a cream cheese frosting, and others
Right.
might need, a whipped icing. I love that. So would you say, what would you say sets your practice or your approach apart from others that are actually in the lifestyle and wellness space right now?
Yeah. So a number of differentiators, I would say. Number one is we're really obsessed with the diagnostics, and I like to talk about, find your blind spots. A lot of high-performing leaders think they're fine, and we are masters of adaptation and compensation, and we don't realize how, for a lot of us, it's high cortisol, or it's microbiome issues, or it's hormone issues, or micronutrients, or all of these underlying issues we don't even realize are right under the surface causing major problems. And so I'm big on doing the advanced diagnostic testing, not just the blood testing, but also all the functional tests that functional medicine uses. But we also incorporate the genetics. We incorporate body composition scanning and VO2 max, and sometimes we'll do full body MRIs and calcium scores and all the advanced diagnostics to find your blind spots. And that's my approach is test, design, and track. So the test part is really making sure that you have the comprehensive testing up front to find your blind spots. The design part, I actually say one size fails all, which goes along the line with what you said, one size does not fit all, meaning that what's right for one person is wrong for the next. And so when we put together a plan for someone, your personal blueprint, if you will, it incorporates the medical component, so the hormones and the peptides and the supplements and the molecules and occasional medications if you need it. But I also integrate the wisdom of my functional diagnostic nutrition FDN certified coaches to provide guidance on exactly what to eat, what not to eat, and fitness and sleep. God, sleep is so underappreciated. And all these lifestyle maneuvers, it's like the marriage of precision medicine with functional wisdom, or wisdom of functional medicine put together, and that's the magic, the medical and the coaching team working together. And then the last part of my system, test design, is track, is the third step, test design track. How do you know that what you're doing is actually working? Most people don't actually follow through of actually looking at what are your metrics, what are your KPIs, how do you know that you're actually achieving your goals other than, I feel good. Well, that's subjective. That could be placebo effect. And so I'm obsessed with measuring outcomes. And so we track blood sugar and sleep, and we track HRV, and we track nutrition, and we track body comp, and all these different metrics and repeat testing so that I can actually quantify that you're actually getting results, whether it's biologic age testing or any other type of advanced comprehensive testing, to know that you're getting results. And so that's the system that I built around putting all these pieces together. And then I've made an awesome, badass client-facing app where
Amazing.
the client can real time, you can text your provider, text your doctor, your coach, the concierge, full-time pharmacy team for all your refills. The biggest complaint I would hear through the years, I'll tell you what, is we've prescribed these hormones and supplements and peptides, and they run out of their stuff 30 days later, and they're like, where are my stuff? Where's my stuff? I
Yeah.
ran out, and you
What do
just
I do
can't.
now? Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
you need so that higher level experience is how the app really kind of puts it all together, and so that's what sets us apart is that higher level experience with all those pieces combined.
That's amazing. I think the ability to sort of text your doctor also is just next level, especially with all the data that you have in your hand, in the moment. Of course, we all have like my chart or these other sort of ways of contacting your doctor, but it's not quick at all by any means. And this is like and it's not as easy as texting. You have to remember your login and have your
Right.
authenticator ready and
That's right.
get everything else. Yeah, I love that. And I love the tailored plan, integrating everything at the beginning, coming up with a plan and sort of checking in and tracking it. How often do you do like epigenetic testing versus like obviously genetic testing is like a one-stop shop, and then how often do you do like epigenetics versus like basic blood labs versus anything else?
Yeah, it depends on the individual. So, the genetics, as you know, it's a one time,
One
you're
time.
you're set for life sort of thing. But then
Sure.
we'll do repeat testing as needed throughout the program, depending on where clients are, what their challenges are, if they're, dealing with, if we're dealing with, dysbiosis or a mold issue, or if we're focusing on hormones, or some people are on optimization where they're on a bunch of peptides because that's, they want to take that to the next level. It honestly depends on where the client is. Yeah, we also, one cool feature that we're about to go live with probably in about a week or two from now is our program is called Peak Launch, and PLX is a new feature in the app that is an
Cool.
AI agent. But what's cool about this AI agent, I was really excited about this, is it actually takes your personal health data, all your genetics and all your functional tests and your labs and your body comp and all your wearable data, and it incorporates that into its algorithm so that it takes our library, our language learning model of scientific data with your personal data to give you recommendations and guidance through the AI agent. So cool stuff.
That's amazing. I mean, that's basically what everybody wants to do right now. We all have tons of data. We don't know how to integrate it. And what we really need is like something that, consumers can actually understand. Your patients can look at it and understand their data and know what to do next. I like this question. So what's one way that you're using lab testing, like maybe it's blood or genetics or gut or urinalysis, whatever it is, with patients that might actually surprise other doctors?
Question. I think the key is integrating it all together. So, for example, let's look at nutrition. So, the common question we hear is, what do I eat? Well, it depends. It depends, right? Everyone's different, and there are people out there telling you what, they're shooting all over you. Should eat carnivore, paleo, keto,
Right,
Mediterranean, vegan, whatever
right,
the hell. Well, we look at your genetics. So we look at genetics around, fat metabolism, around carbohydrate intake, around micronutrient requirements, around, macro ratios, or all that stuff to give you a foundation from the genetics. We then look at the microbiome test and understand your gut, how it's functioning, detoxification pathways, looking at gut integrity, leaky, signs of any leaky gut or dysbiosis or any digestive function issues. We then look at food sensitivities to understand what foods might be triggering inflammation or, issues short term right now. And then we look at metabolic rate testing, which is where you wear a mask and for about 8 minutes we actually measure
right.
your metabolism.
Cool.
And then we look at body composition to understand where you are, visceral fat and body fat percent. And then we look at your goals and where you want to be. And then from all of that, we can put it together to actually then finally answer the question, what the heck do I eat? And so it's taking a lot of complex data from different modalities and how do you integrate all that together into a cohesive plan. And it's not easy, and that's the nuance of what makes us different, that we're willing to go that extra mile and do the extra work because it's a lot of work. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of work. I've been on the side of helping organize some of that data integration before, and I found that a lot of, patients want to hear something like they don't want you to tell them get more antioxidants. They want you to say have 5 strawberries before 12 p.m. They want like really specific instructions. But how great is it when you can give them a diet plan that's like based on everything about them, genetics and otherwise?
Yeah.
I love that. How do you decide which tests are worth using, especially when patients might feel, overwhelmed and like obviously cost is a factor and that sort of thing? Like, how do you vet them and decide what's worth utilizing?
Great question. And it has been, I'm actually helping doctors build their programs as well now. So I love that question. And it comes down to
Cool.
understand your avatar, your ideal client, understand the problem that you're trying to solve, and what are the best tools to do so. And it also comes down to financials because we're still running a business. So you have to make it financially viable, and how much your client's willing to pay for that service as well. And what do you include versus add on a la carte. So those are a lot of different variables, obviously. What we do is based on, I know my avatar, my client who I work with is me. It's
Right.
the 45, I'm not 45, it's the 45-year-old, I'm
You
kidding,
can say it.
a business owner, founder, executive, leader who is struggling with issues with energy and cognitive function, focus, drive, body comp, sleep, performance on a daily basis.
Everything.
And I know the issues that that guy is facing from the blood labs. I want to look at cardiovascular health. I want to look at hormones.
Hmm.
I want to look at metabolic health. I want to look at micronutrients and inflammation. So I know that those are the 5 things I know fundamentally at a foundational level every guy needs. Okay, and woman as well. We work with men and women.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
those are the blood labs we start with. And that was from trial and error. What tests do I include and not include? And I really have honed in on those 5 categories of blood tests. And then I recognize that every single client I work with, they have microbiome issues, whether they know it or not, massive issues.
Everyone. Yeah.
And I just have to do it. I can't ask them, do you want it? I have to just do it. And once we do it, they'll be like, holy cow, I had no idea. Well, I know, right? And so we automatically do microbiome testing. Whenever there's microbiome issues, you always see food sensitivities. And I know that as part
Yeah.
of the treatment, I got it. So I include that as well. And then the last test that I think is really big on the functional side is the cortisol testing. And this comes down to, I know that, again, this relates to my particular business. The client that I work with is the driven,
Right.
successful entrepreneur, founder, leader. They're high wire. Stress is a major problem, but they deny to the end of the world, I'm fine. Doesn't
Of
affect
course.
me, right?
No, I'm doing fine. I
Yeah,
can handle it.
it does. Stress doesn't affect me.
I like when they say, I've been doing it for like 10
Yeah,
years.
I'm
So
okay.
I'm
Right.
used to it.
Yeah. And so I do those tests to show people the blind spots they don't even realize are there, just to get them to wake up and be receptive and willing to change. And then I incorporate
Yeah.
genetics to guide my treatment plan. Then we'll do VO2 max and metabolic rate testing and body comp and all these other tools that we now have to help guide our management as well moving forward. But those are the fundamental tests that I have found are best for my business, taking into account all the issues, the variables that I talked about.
I love that. I didn't even think about the fact that you moved from urology to the wellness space. So you got to include all this new knowledge related to like the wellness space and that sort of thing, but also more integration of like women too, that you probably didn't get as much exposure to prior to. So that's like kind of fun too, and a whole different, a whole different genre included. I'd love to hear like, about a case where, maybe there was like a complexity of test results that you got back or something where, it made a real difference in a person's outcome or treatment. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll give you several came to mind right as you're asking that question. So one of my clients, Ken, he's been with me forever. Back in my urology practice, he saw me for prostate cancer, and now he and his son see us as well. His son's now a teenager. Years ago, I was seeing him, and he was telling me how his 12-year-old son was having recurring sinus infections. And he'd been to ENT doctors, had scopes done, and all kind of antibiotics, nothing was
Terrible.
working. And I was like, Ken, it's in his gut. And Ken's like, no, doc, it's in his sinus. I'm like, Ken, it's in his gut. He didn't believe me. I was like, let me prove it. And so I took his son in, and we did microbiome testing. It was a disaster. It was a mess. Cleaned up his gut, and that was 4 years ago now, and he has not had a sinus infection since. He had them his whole life, and they're now completely gone.
Amazing. That's amazing.
Right? I had a race car driver client who had issues with brain fog, and it was decision making on the track. Really, he's racing cars 200 miles an hour on the track, and he came in because he felt like his decision making was off some way or another. We found for him it was in the gut as well, and it was all related to leaky gut. He had food sensitivities to 2 things. Of all things, he had bananas and coffee. And guess what
Wow.
this guy was having for breakfast every morning?
Of course.
And those aren't bad necessarily, but for him, it made all the difference in the world. And once we were able to clean up his gut, stop those 2 foods, it was like almost overnight how things changed for him. Had a guy who he's an executive, and as part of our initial assessment, we did a full body MRI. And the MRI showed that he had a spot on his kidney that,
Yikes.
from my urology experience, I knew right away what it was, and got him to a colleague of mine locally, and he had robotic surgical removal of it, and it was a kidney cancer.
Wow.
And kidney cancers are notorious for not causing any symptoms until they're massive, until they're huge.
Really
And
bad.
so it would
Right.
have been caught way too late. And so fortunately, we saved the guy's life. All kinds of stories like that where you find stuff, and again, it's the blind spots. So many guys will tell me they're not stressed and their cortisol tests are through the roof, and that's
Hmm.
why they can't sleep. That's why they can't burn fat. That's why they're so tired and can't think clearly. And so when you can find those issues, you kind of know where to focus your attention.
Yeah, I love hearing your perspective about microbiome too, because I hear a lot of healthcare providers say, "Well, I don't offer it to someone unless they tell me I've got gastric
I
issues."
hate that. That's
Because
why.
yeah, I think part of it though is because when you get the results back, there's always a problem to work on. And I think that that is like, kind of scary. You have to come up with a plan regardless of what comes back. Um, Speaking on like other testing modalities, what kind of new approaches or technologies in the lab testing space are you most
Yeah.
excited about right now?
Yeah. And I want to double click on something you just said that I think is worth emphasizing, and that is that most people think they're fine, right? Most people
Yeah.
have no complaints. I'm okay. You get through life. And because we are so good at compensating and adapting to the situation on the fly, and we have no idea how far we are from being optimized, performing at the highest level that we could be. And so that's why I'm really vehemently against anyone who says that. And I've heard the same thing as it relates to hormones, like testosterone, for example.
Yes.
Don't check cortisol. Don't check a microbiome testing, food sensitivity. None of this stuff because unless you're symptomatic. Well, what does symptomatic mean? How do that, to me, that's like a disease focus. That's focused on ICD-10
Yes.
diagnosis codes, and
Totally.
that's what got us in this place in the first time. That got us
I
in the first
know.
place. Yeah,
This is why we do all these testing modalities in people. We're optimizing. It's not about anymore of like solving the already sick. You don't know what you don't know until you test it. I totally
exactly,
agree.
exactly.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, I didn't mean to lead astray, but I just want to
No
get on
worries.
that.
Yeah,
So I love using things like blood sugar, like CGM, continuous glucose monitoring for clients who are not
for
diabetic.
sure.
Again, I think I'm fine, but I can't lose weight. But then you use a blood sugar monitor and find that your blood sugar is spiking to 190 for 6 hours at a time because you're eating the wrong foods for your body, for example.
See,
Right?
yeah,
Yeah.
that happened to me. I thought I had no issue whatsoever, and it turns out I can't eat plantains without spiking glucose.
There you
So I
go.
just don't eat plantains anymore.
And it's understand that maybe it's a sequence. Maybe if you have protein first, but that you can experiment, and
Right,
that's the magic of it. You can understand what's right for you, and it's not it's not that carbs are bad necessarily. Sometimes it's the
right.
right carbs at the right timing, the nuance of it that it helps. So I love that part of it. I love the new tests that are out there. So, for example, there are some mitochondrial function tests. So we now understand the mitochondria. It's a little organelle, it's a little factory in your cells that produce energy, ATP. And we
Hmm.
believe that issues with mitochondrial function are one of the hallmarks of aging. And so there's a lot of attention now around how do we improve mitochondria. There are now tests that you can measure mitochondrial efficiency and function. New tests that are out. I don't swear by them yet. I'm testing them now. This is what I do though: is new tests come out, I want to try it. I want to test it out on myself, on others, and see really is it legitimate? Does it work? What's the science behind it? Before I start just selling it. A lot of people are so quick they just want to make a business and sell it, but what I want to know
Sure.
is does it actually work and does it actually help guide decision making?
I love that. I think that's a great answer too. Do you see right now that there's any gaps or like areas where the right test just, doesn't exist or where, existing ones really fall short?
Good question. So biologic age testing is interesting right now. So biologic age, for those of you who aren't familiar, it is simply looking at methylation patterns, marks on your DNA that have been validated to correlate with biologic aging. So you can have 40 birthdays, but your chronological age can be 32 or can be 52 if you're aging at a faster or slower rate than you should. And so biologic age has gotten a lot of attention recently, and there are new tests that are coming out in this space, and there's a lot of question around the validity of it and how accurate is it, what does it really mean, and what are we really treating, right? So what's compelling,
Absolutely.
and this is an unpopular opinion, I'll preface it with that there is nothing that has shown us yet that anything we're doing right now actually affects aging. Meaning, there's not been one single human study that has proven that we are extending lifespan. We think we are. Sounds good. Sounds sexy. And we're measuring biologic age. So, oh, my Brian Johnson, my biologic age is so and so. But have you actually extended your lifespan? We don't know yet. And so
Right.
I'm a skeptic of all that. Show me the proof. And so I think it's just having healthy curiosity and skepticism around all these tests and what are we actually doing here.
Yeah, I think a lot of the biological aging field is moving toward like the chronic disease space with the idea of being able to find a better predictor of, your risk for chronic disease, incorporating things like your genetic risk and your epigenetic risk for those. And I
Yeah.
think that's the right direction for it to go in, because I agree with you that, you know, maybe you could correlate biological age clocks with historic data and those lifespan. But like you said, that in terms of interventions, besides saying you can change the way the clock looks right now, we don't know until we have like a long-term study or can see outcomes. But I love thinking
Yeah.
about the way that the field is changing in that realm. What do
Yeah.
you think, like how do you see the role of testing changing in the next, 5 to 10 years?
Yeah. I think it's going a lot. Uh, there's going to be a lot more companies and a lot more energy and focus on the biologic age space. And how do I love the focus now on looking at organ systems and the
For
aging
sure.
of your individual organs. I think that may be much more valuable, and pace of aging, that kind of, Dunedin pace. And
Yeah.
Generation Lab now has a biologic age test that's out there, and they're starting to be more focused not on just this number of, oh, I'm 42, but my biologic age is 34, so look at me, yeah. What does that mean? But if you look at
Right.
actual organs, that's where I think you may see some real value. So I think there's a lot of stuff heading in that direction.
Totally. So for other practitioners listening, what advice would you give about integrating testing more effectively into their practice? I know this is kind of looping back to what we talked about before, but you're an expert, and I'm sure everyone wants to know your wisdom on this topic.
It's test and iterate and continually refine, because the key comes down to what tests are you going to run that will actually change your treatment plan, and how do you make it fit into your financial model running a business, obviously, while still providing an outcome for your client. And it's a juggling act where it has to be the right balance. I get inundated on a weekly basis with all kinds of new tests that we can do,
Right.
but should we do them? I don't know. I mean, I have on my desk right now, I have an NAD test, I have a microplastics test, I have a new heavy metals test, and I have this mitochondrial function test. All these different tests that I can incorporate, but do I? How? And a lot of it comes down to what does the client want? What do they need? And
Hmm.
is it a la carte you can add on, offer as needed, or is it part of a bigger program? And I'll tell you, there's such nuance around that. I don't have a better answer for you than that.
Yeah, I know it is, and the field's just growing rapidly, and it sounds like your desk looks a lot like mine with several tests on it. I also have some like hormone testing sitting around here, and like a
Yeah.
saliva cortisol test as well.
Yes. Yes.
It's an exciting time to be in this
Yeah.
space because everyone's developing something. But
Yep.
is there one test you think, I think I know the answer that you're going to say, but is there one test you think is underutilized, but, has a lot of potential in other practices as well?
Of the functional tests that we do, you're saying, I think
Hmm.
that again, microbiome and cortisol are, I think, a
Right.
go-to. They should be a staple. One thing that we do a lot of tracking is HRV tracking, and I want to
Yeah.
clarify. Yeah, a lot of people, like, they use their Aura, they'll use their Garmin watch or their Apple Watch and just track HRV throughout the day. You'll get a number, and what does that number really mean? The problem with tracking it continually throughout the day like that is that you're looking at skewed data, because every day is different. You're on a podcast one day, you go out, do a leg day the next day it's a holiday, and so every day is different, and so the context is different of all that 24/7 data. But if you were to wear a chest strap and you were to measure it at one single snapshot in time every day at rest, such as at 6 a.m. when you first wake up on the couch, now you can compare apples to apples instead of apples to oranges, and now you have a much better indicator of your true heart variability. And now you can start to make meaningful decisions from that and understand what may be stressing or triggering you. And for a lot of guys, I tell you, it's overtraining, it's poor
Yeah.
sleep, it's stuff like that shows up when you drink alcohol, that shows up in that HRV number. But again, it can't be skewed by 24/7 constant feed. It has to be one snapshot in time. And so I really love doing that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Do you have like for HRV tracking then are you have how long do you, recommend tracking that for an individual?
I mean, I like to do like a month at a time. Every
Hmm.
morning, and it's about consistency. It's about setting,
Right.
expectations. It's habits. I love the concept of tiny habits and, daily routine and
Hmm.
consistency and accountability. And so every morning you wake up 6 a.m. Put on the strap. If you're going to have coffee, if you're going to microdose, if you're going to journal, if you're going to meditate, breathing exercise. What are you doing in that those first 30 minutes to an hour is so important. And it takes 2.5 minutes to sit on the couch and run that scan. And so I think everyone should do it. You'd be amazed how your HRV will be affected by things like a couple glasses of wine or a poor night's sleep or overtraining or, you know, a bad meal, etc. And so it's pretty
You're talking me into it.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that sounds awesome. I was expecting you to mostly go the microbiome direction, but I like this new one.
Yeah.
So how do you explain, the value of testing to patients in a way that they're able to really connect with?
Yeah, it comes down to data drives decisions, and a lot of people know what they're supposed to do, but don't do it. Like, right, like, you're supposed to eat this many calories and maybe this macro ratio, and you're supposed to work out these many days a week, but you don't do it. And why don't people do it? Like, you know what you're supposed to do. I've given you the playbook. Why don't you do it? But when you show them lab testing, when you show them data, the proof is in the pudding. The proof doesn't lie. Like, here's your stuff. Here's your numbers. Like, I'm not making this up now. And I find that it helps create a willingness, creates space. It creates clients who are more open to doing the interventions that they need to be doing. So I use it almost as a tool that without it may be more difficult to get them to make the lifestyle decisions that we're suggesting.
I love that answer because I think it's, sometimes it's hard to get patients to do testing at the beginning, but when you show them how valuable it is and show them the way to make changes, and when they see that change, they're addicted, and they really want to improve. So, I don't want to hold you too long, but if you could leave our listeners with one key takeaway about testing and patient care or anything like that, what would it be?
Yeah, yeah. Focus on your client outcome. What is the goal? What's the ultimate outcome they're trying to achieve, and what are the tests that can help you get them there? And understand that the client experience is everything. And we are really in the business of outcomes, of creating that transformation. And what do you need to what tools do you need to accomplish that? And how can you differentiate yourself in the market as well? There are so many wellness practitioners and functional medicine docs and longevity experts, and it's becoming a crowded space. And so it's so important to differentiate, and you do that by providing real outcomes. And how are you able to do that in a very unique and different way?
I love that answer. Thank you so much for sharing your insights today. And for our listeners who want to learn more about your work or the Gapin Institute, where can they find you on?
Well, thanks so much. So our center is gapininstitute.com. And so that's GAPIN Institute.com. And if you want to see, I like to show you, behind the scenes, what a funnel looks like, lead magnet funnel to get people in the door. Go to gapininstitute.com/launch, LAUNCH. I have a number of downloads. So typically when I do a podcast, I'll say, go there and get my high performance health handbook or a copy of my ultimate peptide guide or a free digital copy of my best selling book, Mail 2.0. And if you want to jump with my team to learn more about it, how we can help you, click the link. And so that's how I really get people in the door, and then we can market to them on the back end. So you can check out that funnel
Amazing.
as well.
Awesome. Well, thanks for tuning in to Better by the Numbers. And if you enjoyed today's episode, share it with a colleague or friend who's curious about the future of medicine. And don't forget to subscribe for more insights from doctors like Dr. Gapin who are pushing care forward.